Hi, I'm Courtney Lewis, the music director of the Jacksonville Symphony. Our second Masterworks program this season begins with Shostakovich's Festive Overture. This is a piece with a kind of circusy, celebratory atmosphere. It was written in 1954 for the anniversary of the October Revolution. The conductor of the celebrations realized at the last moment that he didn't have a suitable overture, and he ran to Shostakovich and asked him for help. Shostakovich wrote at great speed, handing each page of the score to the conductor while the ink was still wet. Next we have Mozart's Concerto for two pianos. And in this piece we'll be featuring the wonderful NAUGHTON sisters, who always play as a duo. Mozart wrote this piece in 1779. He'd been on a trip to Paris and Mannheim, and in Mannheim he'd fallen in love for the first time with a girl called Aloysia Weber, who turned out to be the sister of his future wife. He returned to Salzburg and incorporated these feelings of love that he'd had into his new piece for two pianos. It's a charming piece that has a very conversational tone, as if two lovers are getting to know each other sheepishly, gradually dipping their toe into the water of their romance. This concert ends with one of the great masterpieces of the 20th century, Igor Stravinsky's ballet, Petrushka. The Mozart concerto featured two pianos, and Petrushka originally began as a kind of piano concerto, and as Stravinsky wrote at the piano, it gradually morphed into something very different. The story centers around a puppeteer who arrives at a fair in Russia, and he has a stall which contains Petrushka, a ballerina, and a Moor, and he does a puppet show explaining how they fall in love with each other. Petrushka is madly in love with the ballerina, who sadly is not interested in him at all and loves the exotic Moor. This first tableau depicts the Shrovetide Fair in Russia. We can imagine street vendors, people crying out as they buy things, and there's great excitement. We meet the magician who sets up his stall and introduces us to the three puppets, Petrushka, the ballerina, and the Moor. In the second scene, we're in Petrushka's bedroom, and because it's a magical story, he's still alive, even though he's not on stage. We see Petrushka banging his head against the wall and getting very upset because the ballerina doesn't love him. She's a bit of a tease, and she comes and dances with him. And as she dances with him, we can hear the clunky music of the Moor trying to sabotage their dancing. Then in the third tableau, we return to the spectacle of the Shrovetide Fair. We see wet nurses dancing, we see a bear, we see masqueraders, and once they've all done their pieces, we see Petrushka again. This time the Moor is able to get the better of him, and he beats him to death. Petrushka is left dying in a puddle below the stage. As soon as he dies, we hear an ominous sound in the trumpets. The magician looks up, very surprised, and sees that Petrushka has become a ghost and is going to haunt him evermore. This is one of the pieces that launched the 20th century. It's full of innovations in harmony and rhythm. There's never two bars in a row where you can feel the same rhythmical pulse. The orchestration is also electric. It's a huge orchestra full of all sorts of unusual colors. You'll hear a very prominent part for solo piano. For this program, we welcome guest conductor Vladimir Kulenovich, who's the associate conductor of the Utah Symphony. Petrushka is always a highlight of the season, and I'm sure that you'll really enjoy this concert.